listening to Somos Hollywood, a podcast where Latinos in film and TV talk about their recent projects and the ongoing fight for more inclusion in the industry. I mean, we're already here, and we're not going anywhere. So yeah, apúrense. We are ready. We are talented. We are Hollywood. Somos Hollywood.
Hey, Antonio, how you doing?
Hi, Kiko. I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks a lot for taking the time, and congrats on your work on the studio.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So I was remembering that I interviewed you back in 2014 for Birdman. So I went back into that interview and I wanted to read a real quick note that you gave me, or quote. And I was asking you if you'd like to do more Hollywood projects after this. And you said, quote, "I would love to do more of this. I would like to do it in a way that would feature my abilities. I wouldn't want somebody to ask me to write a film score with an orchestra and strings and a brass section. That's not my thing. What I do is play drums." So most of your score for the studio is percussion, but there's also other stuff in it too. What changed over the last decade?
Well, I realized what a blessing was to be part of Birdman, because it had a huge impact. The score had a lot of impact too because of its originality. But then, I realized that it was also a little bit of a curse, a little bit of a crux, because if you wanted drums, of course, I'm the guy to call. But if you want something else, a lot of people don't know if I can do it. So for those people that thought I was a one-trick pony, I really want to showcase my other abilities. I have many records, solo records under my belt where I write all the music, and I've done other series where there's a lot of orchestral music in it as well, but I haven't had the chance to showcase it as much as I would like to, because Birdman keeps being the door that keeps being the movie that keeps opening doors for me. So still trying my best to do other kinds of scores, but what I do the best is drumming. So even when I do other stuff, I like it that it usually gets born from my drum playing.
Right. Yeah, I revisited some of your scores, like the one for Alphabet City. There's a lot of other instruments in that. And I went back to the Get Shorty score too. I couldn't tell if there was a little piano in that one. Was there? Or did it just sound like or was that just
Yeah, there
percussion?
was a little bit of other elements, but nothing too orchestral. This series and another series I did last year called Stags, that
Right,
unfortunately only came out in the UK.
right.
That has way more. That I think that has been the most complete score I've done.
Yeah, I did read that Seth and Evan, they were huge fans of Birdman and even used tracks
Yeah.
as placeholder for the studio before even reaching out to you. Well, when they asked you if you could do other stuff, because you just said that a lot of people don't know that you can do other stuff. Well, what
Yeah.
did you tell them?
Well, I told them a little bit about my classical education, that I studied classical piano in Mexico, classical composition. I'm a huge Mozart and Chopin fan, and Debussy, and I'm just a fan of music. And then, of course, my beginnings as a rock musician also gave me, a certain vocabulary that I can draw from. And then from there, Latin jazz, fusion, and then jazz. And this series was obvious that they wanted some old school jazz, some more modern things, noir sounds in a couple
Yeah.
of the episodes. So I told basically Seth and Evan, I believe me, I can do it. I'm not a one trick pony with the drums. And at some point, Seth just said, "Well, I'm sold. Cool, let's do it." And they sent me the first episode, and the cool thing is that they let me do my thing. They told me, don't guide yourself too much by what we did there with your Birdman music. Just if you feel somewhere else where there should be drums, or if you feel like there shouldn't be music in this other part, feel free, experiment with it. And luckily I've gotten so much better since Birdman at doing this, that they really liked what I did on the first go. So that was very fortunate.
Very cool. Now you're going into this project writing something that's supposed to indicate how chaotic, in a sense, the filmmaking industry is, right? And you did the same thing to a point in Birdman, but with the theater industry. So in terms of sound, what were some of those other themes and sounds that connected those two projects together?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like drums is the perfect instrument to show chaos in general. And one of the things that Iñárritu discovered, and now Seth and Evan discovered, and I knew, is that drums can give a lot of atmosphere, can give a lot of energy, can give a lot of things, but it doesn't really quite spell out literally what you're supposed to be feeling on a certain scene. You know, for example, there's a lot of scores that, okay, when there's a sad scene, then you hear the sad strings or the minor chords on the piano, and it just kind of spoon feeds you a little bit the intention of the scene. What I like about the drums is that they can be more neutral, but they're very malleable. They can be very fluid with the energy they provide, but it doesn't really quite, you know, tell you how you're supposed to be feeling. And I've really gotten very good also at layering things. So on Birdman, I did a little bit of that, but now in my own studio, you know, I can spend all day doing things, and I can sometimes I'll have five different drum sets doing different things at the same time, so that it feels really big, but it still doesn't get in the way because I really try to weave in and out of dialogue and movement.
Right.
And as you can tell, this series is wall-to-wall dialogue. I mean, it's very little scenes where they're just doing stuff without talking. So that has been a challenge too.
You have a track in this series called Buscemi for actor Steve Buscemi, who plays himself. What was the creative process in developing that theme, and had you ever written that theme for a specific actor before?
Yeah, I mean, I really try to go with the scene, you know, and
Okay.
if I'll try a bunch of different things before I settle on something, and it all comes from improvisation because that's what I do best as a jazz musician. So then I'll improvise a bunch. I'll mark in my session in Pro Tools. I'll mark the important parts that I should acknowledge, either by playing or by not playing, and then I'll just start improvising. And I'll try a bunch of different beats. You know,
Mm.
I usually have good instincts of, okay, I think this could work, but then I'll listen back to it, looking at it, I'm like, no, 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 this doesn't work. And then maybe I feel it needs something faster, something slower, something busier, something more spacious. So once I find like the right formula that I feel fits the scene or fits the dialogue or fits the character, then I'll go with that and start like building blocks on
Right.
top of that.
So this was written more for the scene and not for Buscemi himself.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they're talking about Buscemi a bunch, you know, so I'm not thinking about Buscemi, but I'm trying to really, you know, weave in and out of the dialogue and the movement in the scene.
Yeah. It would still kind of be pretty cool if he used that song every time he walks into a room from now on, right?
That's right.
What are some of the most interesting items you've used as percussion instruments over your career?
Well, one of the things that I like is to try to make the drums kind of sound weird, you know, because you have your standard drum set, but I like to put things on the drums. A lot of times I'll put like cloths, t-shirts, little cymbals, little shakers, little percussion things on top of the drum so that you can hear the drum plus the percussion at the same time. And then, of course, you have a wide array of things you can hit it with, starting with your hands, with mallets, with brushes, with rods, with sticks. So then you can get a lot of different textures and different sounds and atmospheres out of the whole thing. And I love just experimenting with that and just putting weird stuff all over the place.
I love the way that composer Dario Marianelli used the typewriter in parts of his score for the film
Mm.
Atonement. Is there anything like that you'd like to try, like a sound that you haven't had the chance to record yet that might sound interesting if it kept a beat?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes, like for example, I've used like my music stand. that it's just metal, just sitting right there. And because I'm looking at everything as I'm playing, I'm like, okay. And if I hear something and I see it, or if I see it and then I hear it, then I'll play it. And sometimes from those kinds of, not accidents, but weird occurrences that happen, that something really cool can be born. I also love to use body parts. Like I'll use, obviously, clapping, or my chest, or my face. And sometimes you can't tell what it is, but you just know that it's not a regular drum set. So I love doing those kinds of things.
Yeah, Antonio, thank you very much for taking the time. And again, congratulations on the studio, and can't wait to keep following your career.
Thank you, Kiko. I appreciate it.